as a brown person, I absolutely hate race swapping. It does nothing for representation. I want to see representations in the form of original stories like Miles Morales, an actual story of an actual brown person. And notably, Miles Morales, in the form that I've seen him, which is in the Spider-Verse movies, I haven't read the comics, the fact that he is black is a story element. You know, they didn't just like, here's black, isn't Miles Morales a race swap? No, that's the whole point. That's the whole... I'm not blaming you for saying that because maybe you haven't seen it, but like, it's a huge part of his character. Where he's from, his background, the fact that he's black comes up both directly and in allegory non-stop. Like it's a huge... He's a distinct character and it's made meaningful. And for that reason, people really like Miles Morales. There are racists online who will bitch and moan and say Miles Morales isn't Spider-Man, which is like a canonically, empirically incorrect position to have. Like in Across the Spider-Verse, you got like Spider-Man everywhere. They're all Spider-Man. How can you say he's not Spider-Man? He's a Spider-Man. They're all Spider-Man. That's the point. It's a multiverse. But I think that for the most part, Miles Morales doesn't get the hate that like Ariel being black in the live action remake did, because not only is the live action remake of The Little Mermaid bad, but also they just made her black and there was no, like, that's it. Like, she's black. Okay, that's it. Like, it's literally just a race swap. There's no change. There's no narrative to it. They just make her black. Whereas with Miles Morales, like, he's a developed character where it's a meaningful and intentional part of the story. Also, isn't it like the 17th century or whatever? No, it would be like the 19th century. In The Little Mermaid, shouldn't Ariel have seen the ship captain? And the ship captain is like, mermaids are black? Okay, that's wild. I bet they didn't do that in the live action remake. I didn't see the live action remake, but I bet they didn't do that. Why can't characters just be black though? They can, but we also shouldn't be like, we shouldn't play dumb and pretend that it isn't being done for a reason, and that reason is cynical pandering. Like, characters can be black, but being black means something. It's not just like a random trait. There are cultural meanings associated with being black, right? Like, it's not just like it's not like eye color, where for the most part a person's eye color is just kind of like a roll the dice, okay, whatever. There's not usually that much meaning to it. Sometimes there is, but usually not. But like in The Little Mermaid, wouldn't her being black absolutely be meaningful? Right? Like, wouldn't that be a more interesting story? If you were going to make Ariel black, couldn't you do something interesting there vis-a-vis race? I mean, it's the 19th century. The ship captain is white. Ship captains, by the way, were like basically landed gentry in the British Empire. They weren't like random guys. They were powerful, like noble, in many cases, noblemen, especially in the British Royal Navy. Like, they were given ungodly amounts of power. He would have been, he was like a powerful man. What if he was a slaver? That would have been the case for a lot of the like British trade. You can do something with that, but they don't want to do anything. Oh yeah, he was a prince. I'm sorry, I forgot. I haven't seen The Little Mermaid in so long. It's a Danish story too. Okay, so maybe he's not with the Royal Navy. I don't know, whatever. But you get my point. You get my point. The same applies there. She drowns the prince in the original. What every man longs for. You understand. Oh, geez, a Danish prince and a black girl would have some wild implications. Yeah, but I think that it would be better to explore those than to do this liberal colorblindness bullshit where you pretend that race is a completely like we live in a not only do we live in a post-racial society, we live in like a post-racial everything where like there is no meaning to it at all, because that kind of like whitewashes the racism. Ironically, by blackwashing a white character but not having any narrative drive for it, in a lot of cases you're whitewashing racism. Like a story where, you know, there's like a white character in 17th century France or something, but then you're like, oh, we'll make it woke, we'll make them black, but then no one's racist to them. You're kind of like pretending that racism wasn't a thing back then, which ironically, by making a character black when they weren't, you're making it seem like there wasn't any damn racism, which, like, what the fuck are you doing? You can't do that. It's not like you can't have bigotry in a Disney movie. What about The Hunchback of Notre Dame? The whole plot of The Hunchback of Notre Dame is the main antagonist wants to kill all of the romantic, like, it's not light bigotry. He's literally like, no, they should all be cast out or slaughtered. Like, there's clearly room to invoke serious issues. You are people. I want original stories of black people that don't involve our struggle. Actually, can we just be people? I mean, if the story is like a historical period piece, even a fantastical one, then it's kind of an element of it. It depends. It does depend. It depends on the kind of story. I do think it depends a lot. But I do not think that just randomly race-swapping white characters does anything for progressivism. You know what I mean? We're tired of the trauma porn. Yeah, but I'm not saying that needs to be the case. I'm not saying that needs to be like the element. I'm just saying that there are certainly better and worse ways of doing it, you know? How about a modern story with black people that's not just a vehicle to teach white people that racism is bad, actually? Aren't there, like, lots of those? Aren't there literally, like, hundreds and hundreds of movies and TV shows that have black characters in a contemporary setting that aren't about racism? Miles Morales? No, Miles Morales would not be an example of that, because race is actually a heavily featured issue, and I want more, I'm greedy. Okay. People just want half-baked race swap stories if it means they get any representation on film. That's the thing. I don't think that's true. I literally don't think anyone was calling for, like, Ariel in The Little Mermaid to be black, or Astrid in the live-action How to Train Your Dragon remake to be black. I don't think anyone was asking for that. Past a point, it seems like it's almost deliberate rage bait. I mean, it's done to, like, draw attention, you know? Doesn't mean that it's, like, anti-white. It just seems like a cheap way of baiting attention and interest. Yeah, like the woke marketing video. I remember that. Story idea of Vikings buy slaves, free them, then ask that they join them, either keeping Hearth's trade lines or fighting hordes of undead or some other supernatural body. Not entirely sure what you mean, but, like, I'm trying to think here. I don't know. Pretty sure the Vikings did have slaves. Yeah, and you know what? They weren't black. Weren't most of the people the Vikings enslaved British or English? So what, like, if you want an interesting narrative there, I guess, having like a slave breakaway story of people enslaved by the Vikings, majority like white people, Slavs, Brits, Franks, maybe some non-white people or whatever. Not that they used the term white back then. You could do something with that I think would be pretty interesting. Lame take. How'd that be lame? A bunch of people enslaved by Vikings, like, break free and commandeer a ship? I don't know. I feel like you could do something sick with that. I think that'd be cool, personally. Also, I think you could probably make some pretty interesting politicking out of, like, examining slavery and racial dynamics outside the context of black slavery and modern racism, right? Like, back then, white people, literally not a thing conceptually. That wasn't like a category. That taxonomy hadn't been developed yet. You would have, like, Franks and Nords and Britons and you know, Slavs, whatever. I'm not a historian. And Moors. Like, you'd have black people, sure, but it wouldn't be like, oh, here's the white people, here's the black people. What group are the Britons fighting the most, apart from the other Nords, right? The Franks. So if you're thinking, like, which group are you going to be racist against? Random Briton who was just freed. It's not going to be a fucking black guy. The black guy's all the way down here. The black guy came from fucking northern Africa. Like, you don't have anything to do with you. There's no beef there. Maybe you're intrigued by the darker skin tone, but apart from that, meanwhile, Hitler incarnate, a fucking Frank, is right here in front of you. You know? It was a different kind of game.